Welcome back to the deep dive. I was walking down the street the other day, just looking at the brickwork on the side of a building, and totally normal, boring red brick. And I had this sudden, almost irrational urge to just tap it.
Oh, yeah, just to see if it would melt away.
Exactly, just to see if it would form an archway into some hidden alley.
It's not irrational at all, honestly. I think that is the precise feeling we are tackling today. It's that deep suspicion you get that the world we live in, the world of tax returns and traffic jams and grill manufacturers,
Yep.
is just a thin veneer.
A complete facade.
Right. And that if you just knew the secret knock or the right way to lean against a barrier at a train station, an entire parallel reality would just open up in front of you.
That is the hook, isn't it? I mean, that is why this story has gripped the entire planet for decades, and today we're walking right through that barrier. We are doing a massive deep dive into the first 9 chapters of the text, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yes, we are.
But, and I want to be super clear about this right off the bat, for everyone listening, we are not just doing a book report here.
No, absolutely not. We aren't here to just give you a summary and then Harry got a letter and then he went to school. If you're listening to this, you already know the plot.
Right, you don't need us for that.
Our mission today is to treat these first 9 chapters as a primary source document. We want to unpack the actual systems of this world. We want to look at how magic is governed, how the economy functions, the class structures that are introduced literally on page 1, and the psychological transition of the protagonist.
We're talking about the clash between the aggressively mundane and the uncontainable magical. We're going to look at the politics of concealment. We're going to look at the severe trauma of Harry's upbringing. And we are strictly sticking to the text provided.
Strictly.
No spoilers from later books, no movie details, just the raw data from Harry's origins up to his very first week at Hogwarts.
It's really a masterclass in world building. You have these 2 worlds colliding, the gray, rigid world of the Dursleys and the vibrant, highly dangerous, chaotic world of wizards. And the friction between those 2 tectonic plates is where all the narrative energy comes from.
So let's jump right in. We have to start with the before. We have to start with the Dursleys.
We must. And I think we need to spend some real time on the opening paragraph of the text because it is just one of the most efficient pieces of character assassination in literature.
It really is. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4, Privet Drive, were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much.
That phrase right there, thank you very much. It's doing so much work.
So much heavy lifting.
It's not just a statement of fact. It's incredibly defensive. It's aggressive. It implies that they are under siege. They aren't just normal by accident. They are normal by extreme effort. They are fighting a daily war to maintain that normalcy against anything that could be considered strange or mysterious.
And look at Mr. Dursley's job. The text specifies he is the director of a firm called Grunnings, which makes drills.
Drills. You genuinely couldn't pick a more symbolic object.
It's loud, it's industrial.
It's mechanical. It's literally designed to bore holes into things through brute friction. It's the absolute antithesis of magic.
Right.
Magic flows, right? Drills force. It represents his worldview, perfectly brute, boring force applied to the physical world.
And Mrs. Dursley, her defining physical characteristic in the text is that she has nearly twice the usual amount of neck.
Which is incredibly useful for spying on the neighbors.
Right. So you have Mr. Dursley representing industrial monotony and Mrs. Dursley representing social surveillance. They are the ultimate conformists. And the text tells us their greatest fear immediately. They are terrified that someone will uncover their secret.
The secret being Mrs. Dursley's sister, Lily Potter. They describe the Potters as un-Dursley-ish, which is a fantastic made-up word. It suggests that Dursley is the correct way to be, and anything else is a dangerous deviation. They pretend she doesn't even exist. They are terrified of the other. And into this sterile, spying, drill-loving environment, they are forced to take in Harry.
The dynamic with Harry is just, it's heartbreaking when you actually strip away the fantasy elements and look at the child welfare situation here. They lie to him about his entire identity.
The lie is highly significant. They tell him his parents died in a car crash. Now, think about that for a second. A car crash is a tragic event, sure. But it is a strictly mundane Muggle event. It's an accident.
Just statistical probability.
Right. By framing his parents' death as a car crash, they strip it of any heroism, they strip it of any meaning whatsoever. They turn a literal martyrdom into a traffic statistic.
And Petunia snaps at him constantly, "Don't ask questions." That is the golden rule of the house.
Because it's the suppression of curiosity. Magic requires imagination and curiosity to function. The Dursleys are trying to systematically stomp that out of him. They put him in a cupboard under the stairs. They try to make him as physically and psychologically small as possible.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The leaking of magic. The Dursleys are trying to contain this thing, but the magic literally bubbles up out of him anyway.
It's a perfect metaphor for suppressed nature. You cannot simply decide not to be who you are. The text gives us these great examples of funny business that happens when Harry is upset or scared.
Like the haircut. That scene is so vivid. Petunia shears his hair off almost completely bald because it's messy again, trying to impose her rigid order on his chaos.
And the next morning, it's all grown back exactly how it was.
Right.
It's a defense mechanism. She tried to humiliate him, or at least physically alter him against his will, and his magic instinctively reset him to his default state. Or the sweater. She's trying to force him into this revolting brown sweater with orange bubbles.
Which, by the way, sounds like a fashion crime of the highest order.
Truly heinous. But notice what happens. The harder she tries to force it over his head, the smaller it gets. It shrinks until it would only fit a hand puppet. The magic is protecting his dignity. It's saying, no, I will not be humiliated. I will not wear the ugly sweater.
And then there's the roof incident. Dudley and his gang are chasing him. Harry is genuinely physically threatened here, and suddenly, pop, he's sitting on the school chimney.
He doesn't even know how he got there.
Mm-hmm.
He assumes the wind must have caught him mid-jump. But we know it's teleportation, it's apparition, triggered by sheer panic and a survival instinct. The Dursleys punish him and lock him up for these things, but they can't stop them. It's a steady escalation, and that escalation hits its absolute peak at the zoo.
The zoo trip. This is such a pivotal chapter. It's the very first time we see Harry actually connect with another living being.
And it's incredibly telling that the living being is a boa constrictor.
A Brazilian boa constrictor.
Harry is looking at the snake, and the snake is looking at Harry. And they have this profound moment of shared empathy. Harry looks at the glass and thinks, it must be really boring being in there. He intensely relates to the cage.
Because he lives in one.
Exactly. He lives in a cupboard. The snake lives in a tank. They're both prisoners of the mundane world. People just tap on the glass all day to annoy them.
And then the snake winks.
Which is just delightful. But then the conflict intrudes. Pierce, Pocus, and Dudley see the snake moving, and they literally shove Harry out of the way onto the concrete. Dudley punches him in the ribs.
Harry is on the floor. He's angry. He's hurt. And suddenly the glass just vanishes.
Notice it doesn't shatter. It doesn't crack or explode. It just ceases to exist.
Yeah.
This is high-level, complex magic fueled by pure, unadulterated indignation. The snake uncoils, snaps playfully at their heels. Says, Brazil, here I come. And causes absolute chaos in the reptile house.
But look at Vernon's reaction. The snake is loose. People are screaming in terror. But Vernon turns straight to Harry. He knows.
He doesn't rationalize it. He doesn't say to the zookeeper, wow, faulty glass manufacturing. He instantly knows it was Harry. It's a reaction of pure fear and a desperate need for control. He locks Harry in the cupboard and says, no meals. It's brutal. He's trying to literally starve the magic out of the boy.
Which brings us to the letters from no one. This is the system of the magical world deciding, okay, subtle leaks aren't working, we're going to knock on the front door.
It is an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. The first letter arrives. Thick parchment, emerald green ink, no stamp, and the address. The address is the creepiest part. Mr. H. Potter, the cupboard under the stairs. That specific detail is what breaks the Dursley psyche. It implies total surveillance. The wizards know everything. They know he sleeps in a cupboard. It completely shatters the Dursleys' illusion that their abusive treatment of Harry is a private family matter.
And Vernon's response is to go into full paranoid siege mode. He nails up the mail slot.
Which is hilarious, because the wizards just instantly switch tactics. 3 letters, then 12, then 24 rolled up inside the eggs that the milkman hands Petunia through the living room window.
I love that image so much. Petunia violently shredding letters in her food processor. Vernon hammering boards over every crack in the doors while humming Tiptoe Through the Tulips. It's a total descent into madness.
It's the madness of a man realizing his entire worldview is collapsing around him. He cannot drill his way out of this problem. The logistical system of magic is just vastly superior. It can get a letter into a sealed house in 1,000 different ways.
And finally he snaps. He yells, "We're going away!" And he takes them to the most miserable place on earth. The hut on the rock.
It's barely a shack. On a rock. In the middle of the freezing sea, during massive storm, it smells like seaweed and mildew. There's no food. Vernon thinks, water. Surely wizards can't cross water.
It's such an ultimate dad logic moment. If I just drive far enough away, the problem will stop existing.
But he massively underestimates the determination of the sender. And this sets the stage for the true catalyst. The clock is ticking down to midnight. It's turning into Harry's 11th birthday. And then, boom.
The door isn't just knocked on. It is hit with such incredible force that it slides right off its hinges and lands flat on the floor with a deafening crash. Enter Hagrid.
This entrance is so laden with symbolism. For 10 long years, the Dursleys have built walls, emotional walls, social walls, and now literal wooden walls to keep the magic out. Hagrid does not respect their walls. He's the physical embodiment of the magical world, real, huge, warm, and completely uncontainable.
He picks up the heavy wooden door, puts it back in the frame, says sorry about that, and then demands a cup of tea.
The power dynamic shifts instantly. Vernon has a gun. He's actually brought a rifle to this rock, but Hagrid looks at it like it's a child's toy.
He ties the steel barrel into a knot.
That is a crucial demonstration for the reader. It shows Harry that Muggle weapons are utterly useless here. The Dursleys' entire authority is based on physical intimidation and strict social rules. Hagrid is vastly physically stronger than them, and he doesn't care about their rules at all.
And then we get the revelation, the line that basically changed pop culture forever. You're a wizard, Harry.
It's the profound moment of identity integration. Harry suddenly makes sense to himself. All the weird things, the hair, the roof, the vanishing glass, it all clicks into place. But Hagrid doesn't stop there. He reveals the actual truth about Harry's parents.
Right, this is where the story gets really dark. They weren't killed in a car crash.
No, Hagrid is completely outraged by the suggestion. A car crash, kill Lily and James Potter. We learned that they were war heroes, head boy and head girl, the absolute best of their generation, and they were murdered.
And not just murdered by a random criminal, they were targeted by a magical terrorist. A dark wizard so feared that Hagrid can't even say his name out loud.
He shudders. He has to write it down on a piece of parchment, but he can't even spell it, so he just whispers it. Voldemort. This introduces the deep trauma of the wizarding world to the listener. This isn't just a fun romp with sparks and broomsticks. There is a deep, scarring history of brutal war here.
And Harry is a war orphan. The lightning bolt scar on his forehead isn't a cut from the windshield, it's a curse mark.
Hagrid explains it. A killing curse that destroys powerful wizards somehow bounced off a 1-year-old baby. Harry is the boy who lived. He's a legendary figure. The contrast is incredibly jarring for him. In this freezing hut, he is wearing Dudley's cast-off baggy rags. He's hungry, he's shivering on the floor. But in the world he's about to enter, strangers hold up glasses to his name in secret across the country.
We have to talk about Petunia's reaction here. Because the dam finally breaks, she screams, "Knew! Of course we knew!"
That speech is absolutely vital for understanding the entire family dynamic. She lets a decade of bile just pour out. She calls her own sister a freak. She talks about how her parents were so proud to have a witch in the family, but Petunia saw her for what she truly was, abnormal.
It's just deep-seated jealousy, isn't it?
It's pure, undiluted envy. Petunia wasn't special. Lily was. And Petunia spent her entire adult life trying to prove that being normal is somehow morally superior to being special. She hates Harry not because of his magic, but because he is the living, breathing proof that she is ordinary.
And Vernon, even with a literal giant standing in the room, tries to insult Dumbledore. He calls him a crackpot old fool.
Which is the one button you absolutely do not push with Hagrid.
Big mistake. Hagrid brings the pink umbrella down, swish, and suddenly Dudley has a curly pig's tail poking right through his trousers.
It's great physical comedy, but it's also highly symbolic. Hagrid says he meant to turn him entirely into a pig, but he was already so much like a pig there wasn't much left to do. It strips the Dursleys of their remaining dignity. They are left screaming in terror on the rock, while Harry and Hagrid simply walk away into the dawn.
So they leave the rock, they take the boat back to the mainland, and now we move into the heavy world-building phase. We go to London to buy school supplies.
But not normal London. We go to the Leaky Cauldron. And this introduces the brilliant concept of the perceptual filter.
Right. The Leaky Cauldron is on Charing Cross Road. It's a busy, bustling street. But the text specifically says Muggles walk right past it. Their eyes slide from the big bookshop on one side to the record shop on the other. They literally cannot perceive the pub.
It explains perfectly how this massive world stays hidden in plain sight. It's not just underground, it's right next to you, brushing your shoulder, but you have to know it's there to see it. It's an exclusive, parallel reality.
Inside the pub, it's dark and shabby. But the reaction to Harry, it's the very first time he feels the heavy weight of his own name.
It's a mob scene. The pub goes dead silent, and then people are scrambling over chairs to shake his hand. Doris Crockford keeps coming back for more handshakes. Daedalus Diggle drops his top hat in excitement. Even Professor Quirrell, who we meet for the first time here, is stammering and nervous around an 11-year-old.
It's incredibly overwhelming for Harry. He's used to being utterly invisible, and suddenly every single person is looking at him with reverence. Hagrid has to rescue him. He takes him out back to the little walled courtyard. 3 up, 2 across.
He tacks the brick. The wall shivers, wiggles, and opens into a massive archway. "Welcome," Hagrid says, to Diagon Alley.
This is the economic and cultural hub of the British wizarding world, and the first stop, logically, is the bank, Gringotts.
Gringotts is a fascinating institution to analyze. It's run entirely by goblins, and Hagrid warns Harry immediately, "You'd be mad to try and rob it."
The atmosphere is so distinct. It's not a clean, modern muggle bank with glass and tile. It's a towering, snowy white building that looms over the shops. And the goblins, they aren't cute, helpful fairy tale creatures.
No, they're described with a real edge. Swarthy faces, long fingers and feet, clever but decidedly not friendly. And the poem engraved on the silver doors, "Enter, stranger, but take heed." It basically threatens a painful, agonizing death to anyone who tries to steal. It's a financial system built on fear and absolutely lethal physical security.
And dragons. Hagrid casually mentions dragons guarding the lower vaults, and the vaults themselves are miles beneath the surface of London.
We see the cart ride. It's like a subterranean roller coaster. It goes deep into the earth. Stalactites and stalagmites. It feels primal. But let's look at the currency itself.
Right, gold galleon, silver sickles, bronze nuts.
It's tangible, heavy wealth. There's no credit here, no digital transfers or paper money. It's literal piles of precious metal. And for Harry, this is the ultimate moment of liberation. He opens his vault, and he sees just mounds of gold coins.
He's been desperately poor his whole life. He's never had a single penny to spend on himself, and suddenly he's independently wealthy.
It gives him agency for the very first time. He can buy clothes that actually fit. He can buy food he wants to eat. He can buy power in the form of a wand. Wealth is absolute freedom in this context.
But notice the other vault they visit while they're down there. Vault 713.
The mystery vault. It has no keyhole. The goblin has to stroke the door with a long finger, and the door just melts away. Hagrid casually mentions that if anyone but a Gringotts goblin tried that, they'd be sucked into the door and trapped inside.
And what's inside this high-security, lethal fortress of a vault?
A grubby little package wrapped in brown paper.
The contrast is so deliberate, isn't it?
Absolutely. You expect the magical crown jewels. You get a dirty, unassuming package. Hagrid pockets it. Hogwarts business, he says. Dumbledore wanted it moved. This perfectly plants the seed of the central plot. The object is no longer in the bank. It is now directly in Harry's orbit.
So, with pockets full of gold, they go shopping. And this is where we get our first real encounter with the social class system of the wizarding world. Harry goes into Madame Malkin's robes for all occasions by himself.
And he meets a boy. The text doesn't explicitly name him yet, but we know it's Draco Malfoy. And this conversation is just excruciating to read.
It really is. Malfoy is standing on a footstool being pinned up by a witch. He's bored, he's drawling, he starts talking to Harry, and every single sentence is a blatant display of privilege and entitlement.
He talks about bullying his father into buying him a racing broom. He talks about dragging his father off to look at wands. He's a pure consumer. But then he pivots directly to blood status.
Right, he asks Harry, what is your surname? And then, but they were our kind, weren't they?
He introduces the vile concept of the other sort. He says, I really don't think they should let the other sort in, do you? He's referring to Muggleborns. He essentially calls them animals, saying they've never been brought up to know our ways.
Is this is systemic wizard racism introduced before Harry even buys a single textbook?
It firmly establishes that this magical world is not a flawless utopia. It has the exact same prejudices and bigotries as the real world, just mapped onto magical lineage instead of race or nationality. Malfoy fundamentally believes biology is destiny.
And Harry's reaction is fantastic. He doesn't know the terminology yet, but he knows a bully when he sees one. He immediately compares Malfoy to Dudley in his head.
He thinks I'm with the wrong sort then. He intuitively, instantly rejects Malfoy's elitism. He aligns himself with Hagrid, whom Malfoy dismisses as a savage servant, and chooses kindness and loyalty over status. It's his first real moral victory in this new world.
Speaking of status symbols and tools of power, we have to talk about the wand. Ollivanders.
Makers of fine wands since 382 BC. That date alone is staggering. It implies this magical culture has been stable and functioning for over 2,000 years.
The shop is tiny, dusty, and completely quiet. It feels like a massive library, or maybe even a church.
It's absolutely a sacred space. And Mr. Ollivander isn't a retail salesman. He's a custodian of ancient magic. He has those creepy, silvery, moon-like eyes. He stares right through Harry.
The magic in this shop is palpable. The tape measure is moving completely on its own, measuring between Harry's nostrils, while Ollivander flits around the shelves, pulling down boxes. But the core concept he introduces here is vital. The wand chooses the wizard.
This fundamentally changes the nature of magic in the lore. It's not just a tool you pick up off a shelf like a hammer or a wrench. It's a partnership. The wand is semi-sentient. It has a distinct personality. If you try to use a wand that fundamentally disagrees with your nature, it simply won't work properly.
Harry tries a bunch of them. Beechwood and dragon heartstring, maple and phoenix feather, ebony and unicorn hair, nothing works. Ollivander snatches them away almost instantly, and he gets happier and happier the more they fail. He clearly loves the challenge.
And then, the exact combination. Holly and phoenix feather. 11 inches. Nice and supple.
Harry touches it and he feels a sudden rushing warmth in his fingers. He brings it down through the dusty air, and a stream of gold and red sparks shoots out like fireworks.
It's the profound moment of connection. But then comes the shadow. The curious factor.
Ollivander reveals the twin cores. The exact same phoenix who gave the tail feather for Harry's wand gave only one other feather.
Just one other.
And that other feather is in the wand that gave Harry his scar.
It's an incredibly profound narrative connection. Harry is inextricably tethered to Voldemort. Physically, he carries the scar on his flesh. Now, magically, he carries the brother wand in his hand. There are two sides of the exact same coin.
And Ollivander's objective analysis of Voldemort is chilling. He says, "He who must not be named did great things. Terrible, yes, but great."
That line is so important for the thematic depth of the story. It tells us that magic itself is amoral. Power is just power. You can use it for great evil or great good. Ollivander deeply respects the raw power, even if he condemns the horrific actions. And he tells Harry, "We can expect great things from you, Mr. Potter." It places a massive, crushing burden of destiny on this 11-year-old boy's shoulders.
Okay. So, armed with his destined wand and his new snowy owl Hedwig, who is both beautiful and highly useful, Harry has to go back to the Dursleys for a month.
The longest, most agonizing month of his life.
He's just counting down the days to September 1st, and when the day finally comes, the Dursleys dump him unceremoniously at King's Cross Station. They're actually laughing as they drive away because they think he's been completely scammed. There is no platform 9 3/4, Vernon says.
And he leaves him there, stranded with a heavy trunk and a caged owl between platforms 9 and 10. This is the final, ultimate test of entry into the magical world.
It's a literal test of faith, isn't it?
Exactly. To enter the magical world, you have to do something that your rational, muggle brain tells you is absolute suicide. You have to walk straight at a solid brick barrier. If you flinch, if you doubt for a second, you'll just crash into the masonry. If you fully believe, you pass right through.
And he doesn't know how to do it until he sees the Weasleys.
The total antithesis of the Malfoys. A plump, caring woman, a chaotic gang of red-headed children. They are loud, completely disorganized, a bit messy, but they are inherently kind.
Molly Weasley sees he is alone and lost. She doesn't ask for his pedigree or his blood status. She just immediately helps him. First time at Hogwarts. Ron's new too.
She patiently guides him through the barrier, and Harry ends up in a train compartment with Ron Weasley. This is the beginning of the central friendship of the entire series, and the economic contrast here is even starker than with Malfoy.
Ron is very poor. The text is very clear and unforgiving about it. He has hand-me-down robes that are a bit too short. He has a hand-me-down wand that is chipped with the unicorn hair literally poking out of the end. He has a hand-me-down rat, Scabbers, who is asleep and completely useless.
And he has dry corned beef sandwiches for the long journey.
Which he actively hates.
But his mom just forgot he didn't like them in the rush of packing for 5 kids. It paints a vivid picture of a family that is deeply loving but severely overstretched. They simply don't have enough resources to go around.
Meanwhile, Harry has pockets weighed down with solid gold. The candy trolley comes by. Ron mumbles that he brought sandwiches, looking embarrassed. And Harry, he just buys the whole cart.
We'll take the lot. It's such a massive power move, but it's done entirely out of generosity, not showing off. He dumps the pumpkin pasties and chocolate frogs on the empty seat and just says, "Help yourself."
It's a classic bonding ritual. breaking bread or, breaking cauldron cakes. Harry has never had anyone to share with in his entire life. He's not hoarding his newfound wealth. He's instantly using it to build a human connection.
And they bond over the culture, the chocolate frog trading cards. Harry opens one and gets Dumbledore.
I've got Dumbledore! And then the card moves. Dumbledore simply walks out of the frame.
Which totally freaks Harry out. He's gone. And Ron just casually says, well, you can't expect him to hang around all day, can you? It perfectly highlights the cognitive difference in their worlds. To a Muggle, a picture is a static memory. To a wizard, a picture is a quasi-sentient visitor who has better things to do than be stared at.
Then we meet the third member of the trio, Hermione Granger.
She bursts into the compartment looking for a lost toad. Neville's toad forever. And her very first impression is, well, it's abrasive.
She's incredibly bossy. She's fast-talking. She watches Ron try to do a spell, which turns out to be a fake spell given to him by his older brothers, and she immediately critiques it. Are you sure that's a real spell? Well, it's not very good, is it?
And then she immediately lists the books she's memorized. I have learned all our set books off by heart, of course. I just hope it will be enough.
That specific line is the absolute key to her character. I hope it will be enough.
Yes, she's Muggle-born. She knows she is stepping in as an outsider in a world that might reject her. Her psychological way of coping with that intense pressure is to over-prepare. She's terrified of being exposed as a fraud or falling behind, so she armors herself with raw information. But to Ron and Harry, who are just trying to eat candy, she just looks like an arrogant know-it-all.
The train ride also gives us the second major confrontation with Malfoy. He shows up at the compartment door with his two hulking bodyguards, Crabbe and Goyle.
He's scouting. He wants to see the famous Harry Potter for himself. And he offers his friendship again, but it's deeply aggressive and conditional. You don't want to go making friends with the wrong sort, he says, openly sneering at Ron's shabby clothes and family name.
And Harry shuts him down stone cold. I think I can tell who the wrong sort are for myself, thanks.
It's a public declaration of war, essentially. He totally rejects the pureblood hierarchy right to its face. Malfoy gets furious, they try to physically take the food, and Scabbers actually saves the day.
The lazy rat. Goyle reaches for a chocolate frog, and Scabbers just sinks his sharp little teeth right into Goyle's knuckle.
A very rare moment of bravery for Scabbers. The bullies scream and run off down the corridor. Yeah. It really cements the bond between Harry and Ron. They fought their very first battle together and won.
So the train finally arrives at Hogsmeade. It's pitch black night. Hagrid leads the first years down to the boats, and they row across the Black Lake.
The visual description here is just stunning. The glassy dark water, the fleet of little magical boats, and then they turn a bend and see the castle. A vast, sprawling castle with turrets and towers perched high on a mountain, windows blazing with light. It's the first time the sheer scale of the magical world really hits them.
They arrive at the huge oak front doors. Professor McGonagall meets them. She's incredibly stern, and she explains the house system right away.
Because it's not just about dormitories. It's tribalism.
Yeah.
Your house will be something like your family within Hogwarts, she says. You earn points for academic triumph. You lose points for rule breaking. It gamifies their entire existence and education immediately.
Then the sorting ceremony. They walk into the Great Hall. Thousands of floating candles in midair. The ceiling looks exactly like the night sky.
Hermione furiously whispers, "It's bewitched to look like the sky outside. I read about it in Hogwarts, a history." Again, using concrete facts to ground herself in an overwhelming situation.
And then they bring out the sorting hat. It's a dirty, frayed, heavily patched wizard's hat sitting on a wooden stool, and it opens a rip near the brim and sings.
The song acts as the sorting algorithm. It lays out the taxonomy of the school. Gryffindor for the braves at heart. Hufflepuff for the just and loyal who are unafraid of toil. Ravenclaw for those of wit and learning. And Slytherin for the cunning who will use any means to achieve their ends.
That last line is a massive red flag, isn't it? Use any means.
It's deeply Machiavellian. It implies a total moral flexibility that borders on dangerous.
So the sorting begins alphabetically. Draco Malfoy steps up. The hat barely even touches his head before it screams, "Slytherin!"
No hesitation whatsoever. The hat knows exactly who he is and what he values.
Ron goes up. Gryffindor, just like his parents and all his brothers.
A legacy placement.
Hermione goes up. And the hat shouts, "Gryffindor!" Which is actually really interesting because she seems like a textbook Ravenclaw with her obsession with reading.
But underneath the books, she has incredible nerve. She has righteous fire. The hat sees her deep potential, not just her current coping mechanisms.
And then it's Harry's turn. The hall goes dead silent. He puts the hat on. It drops right over his eyes, plunging him into darkness. And the dialogue happens completely inside his head.
This is one of the most crucial scenes in the book. The hat whispers, "Difficult. Very difficult. Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind, either. There's talent. Oh, my goodness, yes. And a nice thirst to prove yourself."
And then it heavily suggests Slytherin. It says Slytherin will help you on the way to greatness. No doubt about that.
But Harry grips the edges of the stool and thinks desperately, not Slytherin, not Slytherin.
Why is he so adamant?
Because of what he's already witnessed. He's seen Draco Malfoy's bigotry. He's heard Hagrid say that every single witch or wizard who went bad was in Slytherin. He inherently associates Slytherin with cruelty and with the dark wizard who murdered his parents. He completely rejects the promise of greatness if it comes with that toxic price tag.
And the hat actually respects the choice. It says, not Slytherin, eh? Are you sure? You could be great, you know. Well, if you're sure, better be Gryffindor.
This perfectly underlines the central thematic philosophy of the entire series. Is our conscious choices, far more than our inherent abilities or traits, that show who we truly are. Harry has all the raw potential for Slytherin. He has the ambition. But he actively chooses to embrace Gryffindor values.
He sits down at the Gryffindor table to massive cheers. He's incredibly relieved. And he looks up and realizes he's sitting right opposite a ghost.
Nearly headless Nick. The way the ghosts are introduced, it's so casual, rather than ghosts. Nick is highly upset because he's only nearly headless. A bit of skin still holds his head on his neck, so his application was rejected from the Headless Hunt. It adds this weird, funny layer of macabre bureaucracy even to the afterlife.
And the welcome feast. The food just miraculously appears on the empty golden plates. Roast beef, roast chicken, pork chops, sausages, boiled potatoes. Harry has literally never seen so much food in his life.
He eats until he can barely move. But while he eats, he looks up at the high table. He's observing the faculty.
Right, he sees Dumbledore, who stands up and gives the best, strangest opening speech in academic history. I would like to say a few words, and here they are. Nitwit, blubber, oddment, tweak.
It establishes his character perfectly. He's an unparalleled genius, but he's deeply eccentric. He's not a stuffy, boring administrator. He's joyful and a little bit mad.
But then Harry looks down the table, past Professor Quirrell's ridiculous purple turban, and sees the teacher with the greasy black hair, sallow skin, and a hooked nose. Snape.
And this is the inciting incident of their rivalry. Harry looks at Snape. Snape looks directly into Harry's eyes, and a sharp, hot pain shoots instantly across the lightning scar on Harry's forehead.
Ouch! He actually claps a hand to his head in pain.
He assumes it's Snape causing it. The text specifically frames it that way. The teacher with the hooked nose looked past Quirrell's turban straight into Harry's eyes, and the pain hit.
Percy Weasley leans over and tells him, "That's Professor Snape. He teaches potions, but he doesn't want to. Everyone knows he wants the Defense Against the Dark Arts job. He knows an awful lot about the dark arts, Snape."
It sets Snape up as the obvious antagonist immediately.
Yeah.
The sudden pain, the hateful glare, the sinister reputation.
Which brings us into the actual reality of day-to-day school life. The classes begin, and it's not all just waving a wand and having fun.
No, it's grueling, hard work. The castle itself is a hostile obstacle course. There are 142 staircases. Some lead somewhere totally different on a Friday. Some have a vanishing step halfway up that you have to remember to jump over. There are solid doors that won't open unless you politely ask them to or tickle them in exactly the right place.
And Argus Filch, the utterly miserable caretaker, and his skeletal cat, Mrs. Norris, they are constantly popping out from behind tapestries to catch students breaking obscure rules.
It feels like the architecture of the castle is actively testing their awareness.
The classes themselves vary wildly in quality. History of magic is described as the most boring thing on Earth. Professor Binns is a ghost who just drones on and on.
It's a hilarious critique of traditional education. The most objectively exciting subject-violent historical wars and bloody goblin rebellions is taught by the dullest teacher imaginable, who literally died in the staff room and just got up to teach the next day without noticing.
Then there's Transfiguration with Professor McGonagall. She's incredibly strict. She turns her wooden desk into a pig and back again right in front of them. It's very precise scientific magic. She warns them, Transfiguration is some of the most complex and dangerous magic you will learn at Hogwarts.
She doesn't mess around for a second. If you mess up in her class, you get a 0 and you're out. It firmly establishes that real magic requires intense discipline and focus.
But the real conflict, the most stressful class, happens on Friday morning. Double potions with the Slytherins, down in the freezing dungeon.
With Snape. This entire scene is just brutal. Snape starts the class by taking the roll call. He pauses deliberately at Harry's name.
Ugh, yes, he says softly. Harry Potter, our new celebrity.
The pure disdain is just dripping off the words. And then he launches into this dramatic, highly poetic speech about the subtle science and exact art of potion making. He says he can teach them how to bottle fame, brew glory, even stop her death.
It's an incredibly seductive, powerful speech. The whole class is captivated, but then he instantly turns his sights on Harry. He starts aggressively grilling him. Potter, what would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood?
Harry has absolutely no idea. He's known he was a wizard for exactly 1 month. He glances at Ron, who looks totally stumped, but Hermione's hand shoots straight into the air.
Snape completely ignores her. Let's try again. Potter, where would you look if I told you to find me a bazaar?
Harry tries to stay calm. He forces himself to look Snape in the eye. I don't know, sir.
And what is the difference, Potter, between monkshood and wolfsbane?
It's a calculated humiliation tactic. He's asking advanced questions from the textbook, yes, but he's doing it specifically to prove a cruel point. He wants to publicly show the class that Harry isn't special or talented, that he's just an arrogant, ignorant little boy coasting on unearned fame.
Harry finally snaps back just a little bit. He says, I think Hermione considers she knows. Why don't you try her?
A bit of understandable cheek. But Snape snaps, sit down, to Hermione, and then he condescendingly reveals the answers. A bezoar is a stone taken from the stomach of a goat that will save you from most poisons. Asphodel and wormwood make a sleeping potion so powerful it is known as the draught of living death. As for monkshood and wolfsbane, they are the exact same plant, which also goes by the name of aconite.
He takes a point from Gryffindor for Harry's cheek. And then, while they are trying to brew a simple potion, absolute chaos ensues. Neville Longbottom melts his cauldron.
Poor Neville is trying to make a basic boil-curing potion. He nervously adds porcupine quills before taking the cauldron off the fire. The cauldron instantly melts into a twisted blob. Potion sprays everywhere, burning holes in people's shoes. Students are leaping onto their desks to avoid it, and Neville breaks out in angry red boils.
And Snape incredibly blames Harry for it. He rounds on him and says, Potter, why didn't you tell him not to add the quills? Thought he'd make you look good if he got it wrong, did you?
It's completely irrational and deeply unfair. He essentially accuses Harry of intentionally sabotaging a classmate just to elevate his own status. It confirms everything Harry felt at the feast. Snape doesn't just dislike him, he actively, bitterly hates him.
So Harry leaves that class feeling totally miserable. He's lost house points on his first week. He's made a powerful enemy out of a teacher. But the long week ends with a much-needed visit to Hagrid's hut.
A necessary reprieve from the tension. They go down to the edge of the forest. It's warm inside. There's hot tea. There are heavy rock cakes that are literally hard enough to break your teeth.
But while they are sitting there relaxing, the main plot violently kicks back into gear. Harry notices a clipping from the Daily Prophet lying on Hagrid's table.
And there's a bold headline, Gringotts break-in latest.
Harry reads it out loud. It says that the break-in at the bank happened on July 31st.
Which is his birthday.
Exactly. And it says the specific vault that was searched had been emptied by its owner earlier that very same day. But nothing was taken, the goblins insist.
Harry connects the dots instantly in his head. Hagrid, that break-in happened on my birthday. It might have been happening while we were there.
He realizes the targeted vault was Vault 713, the one with the grubby little package.
And Hagrid gets incredibly shifty. He absolutely will not meet Harry's eyes. He grunts uncomfortably. He forcefully offers him another rock cake just to shut him up and change the subject.
So, the big picture suddenly becomes terrifyingly clear. Someone, presumably a highly dangerous dark wizard, tried to rob the most secure bank in the magical world to get that specific package, but Hagrid got there first and emptied it. Now the highly sought-after package is somewhere inside Hogwarts.
And clearly, Dumbledore wanted it moved because he knew it wasn't safe at the bank anymore, which strongly implies that Hogwarts is the only place safer than Gringotts.
So let's step back and look at this. We've covered a huge amount of narrative ground here. We've gone from a dusty cupboard under the stairs to the warm, roaring fire of the Gryffindor common room.
We've examined the underlying systems. We've seen the tangible, goal-based economy of Diagon Alley. We've seen the rigid class structure defined by blood status and inherited wealth. We've seen an educational system that is highly rigorous and physically dangerous.
And we've seen the looming danger. That's the real so what here for the listener, isn't it? The magical world isn't just whimsical and fun.
No, not at all. That is the key takeaway of these first 9 chapters. Dumbledore casually stands up at the welcome feast and announces, "The third-floor corridor on the right-hand side is out of bounds to everyone who does not wish to die a very painful death."
And the students actually laugh.
A few of them laugh, thinking it's a joke. Harry turns to Percy and asks, "He's not serious." And Percy, who knows the school, says he must be.
It suggests that this society treats its children with a shocking level of intense responsibility. You are handed a lethal weapon, a wand at age 11. You can blow things up in class. You can wander down the wrong school corridor and literally die.
It absolutely does not coddle them.
Yeah.
The Dursleys relentlessly coddled Dudley and violently suppressed Harry. The magical world hands Harry a wand, shows him a deadly corridor, and basically says, "Try not to die." For a boy who has been treated like an insignificant nuisance his whole life, this extreme danger is actually incredibly empowering. It means his actions matter. His choices now have life or death consequences.
And the deep connections are all there right from the start. Harry is tied to everything. His brand new wand is the literal brother to Voldemort's wand. Hagrid, the school groundskeeper, was the very first one to hold him when his parents died in the ruins of their house. Dumbledore left him on the doorstep.
It's a massive tangled web, and Harry is standing right at the center of it, just trying to figure out which strands are safe to pull and which will snap.
I want to leave our listeners with a final, slightly provocative thought to mull over. We spent some time talking about the wand, the holly and phoenix feather.
Sharing a core with the Dark Lord.
Right, and we talk extensively about the sorting hat. It looked deep into Harry's brain and saw greatness. It saw a nice thirst to prove himself. It explicitly told him, Slytherin will help you on the way to greatness.
It almost begged him to go to Slytherin to achieve his potential.
So here's the question you have to ask yourself. If Harry's magical weapon is the exact twin to the villain's weapon, and if Harry's mind is a perfect psychological fit for the villain's house...
You're asking how much of Voldemort is actually fundamentally inside Harry.
Exactly. Is Harry good because he is naturally inherently pure? Or is he good because he wakes up every single day and actively chooses to fight the part of himself that is exactly like Voldemort?
That is the ultimate defining question of the entire saga. Is a person's character defined by their inherent nature or by their daily choices? The hat implies it is the choice. It is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are. But the physical evidence we've seen, the burning scar, the twin wand, the strange affinity for talking to snakes, it suggests that nature plays a much darker, heavier role than we might want to admit. Harry literally carries the villain with him, in his pocket and on his face.
And perhaps deep down in his soul.
Well, that's a cheerful thought to end on.
On that incredibly dark note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive for today. We'll be back next time to see what happens when you mix a massive 3-headed dog, a mountain troll, and a highly unregulated game of Quidditch.
Sounds very messy.
Keep reading the tea leaves, everyone. And remember, just because you can't see the platform doesn't mean the train isn't leaving without you.
Goodbye.
See you next time.